You're listening to the Monday Night Community Show with Daniel on BRFM.
This is the Daniel Monday Night Community Show on demand through YouTube. Thank you very much for choosing to listen to us through this method. If you'd like to keep up to date with when I add new interviews, then subscribe to this channel. This is the Monday Night Community Show on 95.6 BRFM, our very own community radio station right here on the Isle of Sheppey. And now it's time to hear the interviews I did when I was out and about at the Sheppey Horticultural Society's Flower and Vegetable Show. This is what happened when I was down there and started by talking to Dave Hale. It's always great to be here, Dave. Thank you very much for inviting us once again.
And guess what? The sun's shining, and hopefully the sun, not the sun will keep off, but the rain will keep off until much later. So we're looking forward to seeing lots of people through the door. We had quite a few people yesterday, so the place was buzzing yesterday. You've heard this before, actually,
yes,
where everybody's suddenly talking fruit and vegetables and what have you. So, yeah, you're very welcome to be here.
I understand an amazing amount of exhibited this year.
We're slightly down on perhaps numbers of exhibits, but We've got 40 exhibitors, which is about par with last year.
It seems a lot to me, that's for sure.
Oh, well, it's nice for you to say that. Thank you. As you can see, fruit to your left, art and whatever classes, lots of vegetables, lots of flowers, obviously. But what's gratifying this year is that there's a lot of competition for onions. As we walk around a little bit later, we'll point out a couple of the onions, where somebody's actually bought in, I think it was something like a 4.5 pound onion, which sort of took some weighing, actually, and pumpkins as well. So over 100 classes. It's a wide range of vegetables. It's a good show. It's always a good show. And we're very grateful for people actually putting their stuff in, because this year has been somewhat difficult. As you probably noticed when we were walking around a couple of weeks ago around Medway Road, that people were... that's the lot of gardening, I suppose. People will always complain about, I haven't got much of this, I haven't got much of that, while they're standing behind something or beside something which is about 6.5 feet tall, when it should only be 3 feet tall. As you can hear, there's a hubbub when people are starting to come in. So, as I say, it's always delightful to have you come and visit the show, Daniel.
Are there any highlights or something you want to let our listeners know about in the show?
Shall we just have a quick walk around?
Yeah, actually, that'd be good, yeah.
Okay. One of the good things this year, we had people coming up to us last year saying that there wasn't quite enough description of what the art or what the class actually was. If you remember, we just had class 1, 2, 3, over 100 classes. That can become... how can I say, unbelievable by the time you've finished. You think, what am I exactly looking at? So this year, we've done something slightly different. We're currently standing in front of Class 5, which is 5 large exhibition onions. And as you can see, they are quite something, actually. You're talking collectively, they're the first actually, about, 10 pounds of onions?
Yeah.
That will keep you going for fish and chips and onions for quite a long time.
Are they a special variety, or is it just the way they've been grown has allowed them to get that big?
First of all, the way they've been grown, from seed generally. And they're a variety called Kelsey. They're an exhibition onion, which will grow to the size. We are talking, I'm trying to describe, 6 or 7 inches across.
Yeah.
If you pick one up, in fact, I'll show you one here, which is the biggest onion. 4 pounds, 12 ounces. Hold that.
Yeah, that is heavy.
There's an awful lot of eating in that.
Yeah.
So that the thing underneath has actually had to be reinforced. I'm joking. The next one, some of our classes are fun classes. There's one here, for instance, where people would dig up a potato and say it's just not exhibition quality. But if you dig 5 of them up, and as you can see, something like 8.5 pounds of potatoes, which are totally misshapen. But until somebody actually says, I've got nothing to put in, say, well, you've got lots of misshapen stuff. It doesn't matter what it looks like. It's a fun class. Come along and get yourself a first certificate. And boy, oh boy, those certificates are well worth having, actually. As you've probably seen as you go around people's sheds, it's amazing how they display their certificates of first, second and third. So that's a fun class. Another class here. Class 31 is the heaviest Mary. As you can see, we put a brief description again so that people know what they're looking at. And the heaviest marrow, which I've got to find it actually, is £9. Yeah, over £9. And again, I won't ask you to lift this particular one up.
No.
But it's amazing. They all crowded round when we do the weighing of this, because it's not part of the judging. And it's amazing. They all crowd round saying, is it that one? Is it this one?
Yeah.
We have an allotmentier who was undecided as to which one to put in, would you believe? And when we weighed it, he went, yes, knowing full well that he had the first prize. So there are fun classes, there are serious classes. The heaviest cabbage, you would never think that is exhibition, but it's just heaviest cabbage. And I'll show you, have a look and see.
Yes.
It was a £14 cabbage. No, I won't ask you to lift it up, Daniel.
No. It's filling the whole table that it's on.
The table, let's describe it, is a good 5 feet long by 2.5 feet wide.
Yeah.
And it's filling that table. Probably it's very good eating.
Yeah.
And it will probably be auctioned off, unless, of course, he wants to take it home at the end of the exhibition, at the end of the show. But not to be sniffed at, especially when somebody walks through the door and you've got to sort of dodge your way through the door with it. But there you go. And again, likewise, what was a good competition this year was the marrows, but not the marrows, the pumpkins.
Cheers for that.
This year we got 4 pumpkins. First, second, third, and another one actually. But the good thing about them this year is that they're all of a roughly equal size, so it makes a true competition out of them. Whereas if you remember last year, we had that one which was 70 odd kilos.
Yeah, it's huge.
So much so, people were frightened to touch it in case it exploded.
I remember you saying the difficulty you had getting it here.
Yes, it took 4 of us to lift it in on a blanket, I remember, and it went out on the same blanket.
Right.
Nobody lifted it off the blanket. And when the guy actually came to pick it up, it was a friend of the allotmentier who owned it at that time. He blanched when he looked at it, because it had to be moved to a restaurant in Faversham it went to, actually. I bet it made an awful lot of pumpkin squash or pumpkin soup and pumpkin pies. So as you can see, 100 plus exhibits. This is one of the classes we introduced a few years ago, because it ties in with the United Nations. It was seen by one of the competitors who thought it was a good idea to put it in. And it's basically 5 a day, a selection of vegetables and or fruit. It doesn't have to look artistic, it doesn't have to look exhibition quality. It's, how can we say, the subjectivity of your choice, how you actually choose and what you would eat. And it ties in with the World Health Organization, this 5 a day business, if you remember. So anybody, for instance, this particular one first is a beetroot, a squash, a corn, a cucumber and some tomatoes, which is a good wide selection of good foods, in fact. So you can see they're all different choices. The judge obviously has thought that one was worth first because of the wideness of the choice. As compared to that where there might be 2 squashes, for instance, if you understand what I mean.
So it's a way of demonstrating the variety that you're growing.
Absolutely, absolutely right. So I won't say that's a fun class, it's a serious class and it's got to be thought about. But it does actually follow the World Health Organization. It's difficult to say that. The WHO, I'll say that for now. The WHO recommendations for 5 a day. And we introduced it a couple of years ago. And it's come up, I think the first year we had perhaps 2 exhibits, what have you, but people have found that they can put something in. It doesn't have to look exhibition quality, but it's the choice of what you're actually putting in, the widespread choice of food. Okay.
This is one of the things that, as I come in, I was going to speak to you, and I suddenly got sidetracked to have a look at these flowers. Some of them are amazing and huge.
They're not quite as large. The competitor who put them in, who's John Lewis, actually, he said that they're not quite as large as they should be.
Right.
Because apparently the centre hasn't quite opened out. What we're talking about here is dahlias, 3 blooms of dahlias. Of large or giant decorative cactus or semi-cactus. That sounds very, very technical. It's not meant to be. It's just that they are the largest of the dahlia brand. But he was saying that they're not yet quite out, which is, so if you come in a day or so's time, they will be further and they will have actually blossomed out even a little bit further. But they go from the sublime to the ridiculously small.
Oh yes, I see. Yeah, completely the other.
Completely the other end of the scale with a little miniature pom-pom, so it's one bloom of miniature or pom-pom style. But it only got a third because the centre has opened out already. It should be much more closed in
Right.
effect. So as you can see, there is technical expertise involved actually. This one was amusing because it's small for the class. It should be 100 millimetres to 150 millimetres
Right.
wide. So he can't actually judge it because what the judge does, he puts a ring over it according to the description. So it's one bloom, small decorative dahlia.
Yeah.
But it can't be judged because it is actually too small because the ring went over it like that.
Yeah.
Okay, but somebody came up to the exhibitor subsequently and said, "Can I have the name of that particular one?" because she liked it. Unfortunately, the exhibitor had the name with
Right.
him and where he got it from, would
Yeah.
you believe, which was very fortunate. So it pays to carry the label around. Right, what do you want to know?
Tell us a bit about it. It's almost like sort of a bonsai ivy.
That's
thing.
right, yeah. I do the bonsai. But what I found the old log, hollowed it out, a bit of ivy in it, and away she goes. Ivy's a weed, really. Everyone wants to get rid of it, but at the end of the day, it can look nice, can't it?
Is it difficult? Because I know ivy wants to just grow everywhere, so to keep it in this neat sort of shape.
Oh, yeah. I mean, what you have to do, you've got to spend an hour, week, just going along, just sort of pricking out the little bits of leaves and just general maintenance on it, really, that's the main thing. General maintenance on it. But, you've got to be interested in it to do it, but at the end of the time, if you've got time, you can do it.
Thank you very much.
That's all right.
So we've come to the end of our little walk round. I was just wondering, Dave, what you've put in this year?
We just happen to have lighted where I've got a couple of firsts and a second, Daniel. So I know it was not, it wasn't engineered, I do assure you. But the first 4 collection 3 pot plants was in fact fuchsia, one of my favourite fuchsias called Satellite. As you can see, it's got a very funny leaf shape.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely perfect for bees because they're able to get up inside that flower to take the pollen and the nectar without having to bite through the end of the flower itself.
Right.
Because that's what, if bees find it difficult to actually get in, they will bite through the back end of the flower, which ruins the flower. Now that's okay on a fuchsia, but it's not so good on a broad bean or a runner bean because they're going into the back and it drops off.
Yeah.
You don't get a bean on it, unfortunately. But this is a variety called Satellite, which I've grown, or I grew some years ago, and then it kind of just disappeared. But these are just 3 pot plants. Next door is another fuchsia, which is a small or a miniature fuchsia, so it's a pot plant in bloom. And next door to that, it came second. You were talking to Alan just a couple of minutes ago about his ivy and looks resplendent actually.
Yeah.
But you can see difference. The foliage plant is different. The 2 exhibits are different from chalk to cheese.
Yeah.
Mine is a grass, and that truly is grown in a pot. But somebody already wants a piece of that. Would you believe? So
Right.
it's swapping and sharing, so to speak, and. I think what was most gratifying was the fact that I got a first for onions over there. Now, I've never got a first for onions before in my life. Onions are a more serious thing, and as you can see from the number of entries, there are something like 12, 13 entries there. To come first in that, I shall probably be sticking it up in my shed window saying, "Hey, look, everybody, I got a first." That's the first time for me, I must admit.
And how often have you entered onions?
Ever since I've been entering, actually. So it was gratifying. I couldn't believe it. But you can see they're different sizes, but it's not always about size.
Yeah.
It's about the perfection, the uniformity, the colour.
Yeah.
Of the, it's okay if you've got 4, but that's what makes it difficult. In fact, perhaps if we could just walk around there,
yes,
something we'll just describe. Now you can see there's a uniformity of colour. It's the first time I've ever achieved it, I do assure you. And uniformity in size and the way they've been presented in this sense.
Yeah.
And it obviously appeals to the judge. I had no inkling that he was going to do that. I'm not even in the hall when he's actually doing it.
I was going to say, I noticed there's like, is it string wrap round the top? Is that
Yeah, that's for dressing.
Right.
It just makes the onion look presentable, in fact.
Right.
So you can see, even if you go to the next one there,
Yeah.
they will have been dressed. You can see from there.
Oh, yes, yeah, I can see, yeah.
It just makes them look much, much more presentable. I tell you what, trying to get it round a small shallot, it really can be very difficult.
Yeah, I was going to say.
There's a few bits of swearing going on when it won't stick in place, quite frankly. So you can, especially when you're in a hurry to get it done, because there's always so much to do. Putting the show on actually takes a lot of effort. And I'd like to compliment on your show, if I may, at least the people who actually put the show together. It takes a lot of planning. And it takes a lot of effort to put it on. Obviously, we need the participants, and I'm very grateful to them coming on and putting their stuff into the show. But behind the background, there are people, putting together, who actually put the exhibition up. People who are serving teas and coffees and what have you like that, and keeping the general public refreshed. And the cakes are superb, they really are superb.
It's one of those things that it's behind the scenes, you don't always realise what's going on and the preparation it takes, which it normally always does.
And that's why I'd like to pay the compliment on your show, if I may. I would also like to pay one further compliment, if I may. It's a little bit of advertising. We have 3 banners. If you turn around and have a look, you see the third of the banners. And, they're about 6 foot by 2.5, 3 feet.
Yeah.
And H&L Graphics put those together for us. And I'm very, very grateful for them for actually putting those banners together, because have you seen them at either end of the high street?
Yes, yeah.
One outside Tesco's and one outside. They're up for about a week, but they were very, very fortunate they stay there for a week.
Yeah.
They come down immediately after the show, so we are proper where that's concerned. As you can see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 exhibitors of tomatoes, 11 of which are red. Everybody knows about red tomatoes.
Yeah.
Everybody knows about yellow tomatoes and orange tomatoes. Not that many people know about green tomatoes, which will stay green, but are perfectly okay. But you try feeding somebody a green tomato, it's quite something else, actually, assuring them that they are ripe. It's a variety called green zebra.
Right.
And it's a proper variety. They are actually properly ripe.
Yeah, they're almost like sort of a dark and a yellowy green shade in them.
Yeah, they'll go a little browner than that,
right.
Actually. The green striping will go a little browner, but they are perfectly. But I once served them for salad when friends came down as a starter, and I could see that all the tomatoes were being shifted to the side of the plate. I said, "What's wrong?" And they said, "Why are you giving us green tomatoes, which are totally and utterly unripe?" No, they really are ripe, I do assure you. But it's convincing them. I think one of the large companies actually tried black tomatoes as well.
Right.
You can still get black tomatoes, which are perfectly ripe. Perfect. Yeah. Whoever said a tomato had to be red or yellow, they are the common colours, obviously.
Yeah.
But green, black, mauve, all kinds of weird and wonderful colours, and they are all perfectly ripe. I would suggest that people do try them, simply because they have I won't say a slightly different taste, but they have, even though they are ripe, tomatoes will have a different taste across the varieties anyway, which you probably noticed, in fact.
Yeah.
There are some which do your glands in as well when you actually deal with them. So 12 varieties of tomato, one of which is green. And it stands in splendid isolation on the table, whereas everybody goes for the red tomatoes.
Yeah.
There you go.
Is there a difference between people growing them outside and in greenhouses, or does that not really matter to the final judging?
No, it doesn't matter to the final judging. You wouldn't know, actually.
Right.
But some are grown outside, some are grown inside. I grow them both inside and outside.
Right.
I grow them at home and I grow them on the plot. Simply, I grow them at home, 3 or 4 vines, for the simple reason that I can just go outside the back door and I don't have to drive miles to actually pick a tomato for dinner or something like that. So, they're handy.
Right.
I would always suggest that if you're going to grow lots of tomatoes, then grow 2 or 3
Right.
in very large pots. You need to feed them more often, and I've said this on the programme before, you're going to need to feed them, simply because they've only got a finite amount of earth beneath them. Feed them, but the good thing is when it's raining, you just need to pop to the bottom of the garden to pick them up rather than drive miles to actually pick tomatoes and what have you. It's a very strange year for tomatoes this year.
Right.
I have on the plot, I have something like 48 vines.
Yeah.
Every one of them is green. There isn't a red tomato on them. So I wasn't able to exhibit tomatoes this year, simply because I don't have any red ones. And they ain't green zebra. So and they would be splendidly unripe, so to speak. They're good for green chutney, and I'm just hoping they're going to go red. But what has happened, as we've said on the show on previous occasions, it's the climatic conditions. Warm during the day, cold at night. There's nothing equable about the temperature at all. And in fact, what you need is good sunshine, good warmth, and good warmth throughout the night as well. But if it goes cold, they're going to balk, in effect. So it's typical Sheppey weather, in effect.
Yeah, I was going to say that. But,
I'm glad you were going to say it rather than me actually saying it. But so it's, as I say, it's typical Sheppey weather. If you're lucky, you'll get some tomatoes. As you see, 11 exhibitors.
Yeah.
I haven't been lucky enough, but I'm just waiting for them to turn red, and I'll have tomatoes when they've eaten theirs.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, I suppose that's one of the things, is that, with some things, if you've got an exhibition happen, you can prepare weeks ahead as such, but with the produce, it couldn't. I assume there's only a short time, because it's either going to be too ripe, not ripe enough, and it's got to fall in line with the show, and you can't pick it too early or start to prepare it too early.
That's the problem. As you were saying with the flowers, for instance, those large or giant cactus dahlias, they're not quite open yet. They needed another few days or another week perhaps, or something like that. Other things have gone over. For instance, some of the pot plants, for instance, would have gone over. Any number of things would be in the garden a couple of weeks ago, and you're thinking, please, oh please, oh please. For instance, I had a hanging basket, which was resplendent. If I say so myself, I'd nurtured it, looked after it, fed it, watered it, moved it in when it looked like rain was coming on, put it out into the sunshine when it needed. And what happens? We got that deluge a couple of days ago, and it completely and utterly washed it out. And the petunias have petals which are like paper thin, and you've only got to get a small amount of rain on them, and literally finished. Yeah. And there's nothing you can do about it. So something I've nurtured for months suddenly becomes very disappointing when I can't bring it to the show. It's annoying, but that's gardening. You take the pleasures, but then you take the disappointments at the same time, or you have to take the disappointments at the same time. And it's not just me, but there are others. Certainly there are other allotmenteers. For instance, my runner beans, they're about 4 foot high. They should be about 7 or 8 feet high, but they just decided not to grow. Again, possibly climactic conditions. They just did not like, not so much where they were put on the plot, but the fact that the weather just was not conducive to what they needed to grow. So much so, we're eating French beans this year rather than runner beans.
Yes. And that was those interviews I did when I was out and about at the Sheppey Horticultural Society's Flower and Vegetable Show. And once again, a very big thank you to Dave Hale and all down at the Sheppey Horticultural Society's Flower and Vegetable Show for giving me the opportunity to come along once again and catch up on how they're getting on and how the show went this year as well.